Pokemon Let's Go is finally upon us, and you're probably wondering, is it too easy? Is it too different? How much Pokemon Go is there? Well, I got you covered. Just kidding, Eric has you covered. This is his review. I'm doing the voiceover for it. Here's Eric's review of Pokemon Let's Go Eevee for Nintendo Switch. I was pretty ecstatic when Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee were first revealed. The concept was incredibly appealing, as what the Pokemon Company and Game Freak showed off truly felt like a natural balance of Pokemon Go-like controls with the structure of a classic Pokemon game. I've been playing Pokemon Let's Go Eevee recently, and while it does maintain its traditional feel, the new gameplay elements simply don't suffice as a replacement for wild Pokemon battles, abilities, and other missing details. Let's Go Eevee does a lot right, but unfortunately misses the mark in a couple key ways. Upon entering the new reimagined Kanto, I was floored. The character designs, animations, and cutscenes are all around gorgeous. Game Freak managed to almost perfectly replicate the Kanto of old, but of course being completely remade from the ground up, taking advantage of the Nintendo Switch hardware. And this adds so much visually, especially in battles with other trainers. Being a lifelong franchise fanatic, I've always been eager to see intense HD animation-heavy battles between Pokemon in a core game. While Let's Go isn't technically part of the mainline series, it boasts the best-looking battles to date. Paired with wonderful visuals is a delightful, updated soundtrack. As someone who's played through every game in the series, besides Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I've heard what the previous titles have to offer. Let's Go's music is true to the original Game Boy installments, but builds upon the tunes. You're getting the classic tunes from Red, Blue, and Yellow, only translated into what a modern Pokemon game would look and sound like. Per usual, Lavender Town is hauntingly beautiful too. I mean, let's be honest, it wouldn't be a Kanto remake without doing that setting some justice. What isn't done justice, however, is your control options, and in turn how these changes actually affect the gameplay. Pokemon Let's Go limits you in TV mode to playing with a single Joy-Con or the Pokeball Plus controller. There's no option to use the Pro Controller, which we already knew about, but leading up to launch I also didn't know you can't use the Joy-Con grip, or even two Joy-Cons separated. You're bound to only utilizing the gimmicky Pokeball Plus controller or a single Joy-Con, harkening back to those glorious Wii days. And this really doesn't make sense to me, especially considering that you're still using both Joy-Con when playing in handheld mode. Overall, it's just a very odd choice, and I'm hoping that Game Freak patches the game so that it allows you to just use a normal controller instead of playing the game like you're holding a TV remote. The Pokemon series has played largely the same since the 90s. The controls haven't changed much, and there's reason for this. The control scheme works. But with Pokemon Let's Go, Game Freak made a fundamental change with the intention of highlighting the Go catching mechanic, an error in judgment that can't be overlooked. This simple gameplay change is one that'll disinterest many Pokemon players, as it completely changes how you'll progress through the story. Instead of battling to level up, you're forced to catch Pokemon to gain XP. This isn't really an issue in the beginning of the game due to the volume of trainers waiting to battle, but once you get to later gyms and begin to hit higher levels, you need to catch batches of wild Pokemon to keep your Pokemon's levels afloat. This repetition is something that we haven't seen in previous games, and now we know why. After catching some of the same creatures 5, 6, 10 times, it gets old, and with a mere 151 Pokemon to choose from, the constant need to catch them becomes a chore. What supplements this change, at least to an extent, is the less streamlined controls available to utilize in handheld mode. When playing portably, Let's Go Eevee uses the series' traditional controls and a gyro method to catch Pokemon. It's not ideal, but playing through the title in handheld mode felt far more natural and user-friendly than on the TV. It's just such a disappointment when you take into account how big of an event this is for Pokemon in general. This is the first time players get to explore a core region in what's supposed to be a home console game, and to bog down the control scheme like they did takes away from the overall experience. It unnecessarily simplifies things to a degree that better serves casual players than the core Pokemon audience, which in turn limits the game's potential as a home console experience. Merely exploring Kanto with the new controls rather than catching wild Pokemon isn't terrible. The use of the Joy-Con to get around becomes somewhat convenient, and it's easy to understand why, as it gives players far more freedom. But this proved to be an inconsistent method in the end, as catching monsters is a core gameplay element that can't be avoided through much of the game. With all of that said, hidden behind these massive control issues is a great game. Battling other trainers, gym leaders, and eventually the Elite Four is a lot of fun, as is exploring the vast, weird Kanto region. Game Freak clearly paid great attention to detail when designing the title, and it shows. The Pokemon diehards, especially those infatuated with Generation 1, will find a lot to love in the Let's Go games. But if you don't fit in that group of people, you might want to skip out on Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu.